The plate shattered against the polished hardwood floor, sending fragments of white porcelain and bits of pasta scattering across the restaurant. Olivia Bennet froze, her hazel eyes wide with horror as the entire dining room fell silent. This was her third mishap this week at the Silver Spoon, one of Boston's most prestigious restaurants, and she could already feel the burn of 24 sets of eyes on her back. "Ms. Bennet, my office now." The sharp voice of Richard Maxwell, the floor manager, cut through the hushed murmurs like a knife. Olivia's hands trembled as she knelt to collect the larger shards, whispering apologies to the startled couple whose anniversary dinner now decorated the floor. 28 years old with a mountain of student debt and rent due in 3 days. She couldn't afford to lose this job.
"Not now."
"Not after everything." I said. "Now, Miss Bennet," Richard hissed, his perfectly manicured fingernails digging into her shoulder as he guided her away from the mess. "Daniel will clean that up." The walk to Richard's office felt like a death march. Olivia could hear the blood rushing in her ears, drowning out the elegant piano music that filled the restaurant. 3 months ago, she'd been teaching literature at a private high school, but budget cuts had left her scrambling for any job that would pay the bills. The Silver Spoon hadn't been her first choice, but the tips were exceptional, and the establishment's reputation would look decent enough on a resume until she found another teaching position. "This is the final straw," Richard began before the door had even closed behind them. "You've been distracted, clumsy, and frankly, a liability. 2 broken wine glasses last week, a spilled soup on Tuesday, and now this. The chef is furious." "Please," Olivia's voice cracked. "I need this job. I'm getting better, I promise. It's just been a difficult adjustment, and it's not working out." Richard cut her off, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "The Silver Spoon maintains certain standards. We cater to Boston's elite. Every server here is expected to be flawless." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. "Please don't kick me out," she begged, hating how desperate she sounded. "I can work the slower shifts, take fewer tables. I'll stay late to polish silverware. Anything." Richard's expression softened slightly. He'd always had a soft spot for Olivia, admiring her determination despite her lack of experience. "Look, I understand your situation, but my hands are tied. Mr. Harris is visiting the restaurant this week, and he's been known to fire managers overless." Olivia's heart sank. Everyone knew about James Harris, the notoriously demanding owner of the Silver Spoon, and 12 other high-end restaurants across the East Coast. A self-made billionaire who'd started with a food truck 20 years ago, Harris had a reputation for perfectionism and unpredictable visits to his establishments. "Give me one more chance," Olivia pleaded. "I won't disappoint you." Richard hesitated, then sighed. "Fine, one more chance. But you're on thin ice, Miss Bennet. One more mistake and you're done. Understand?" Relief washed over Olivia like a wave. "Thank you. I understand." The remainder of her shift passed without incident, though her hands shook every time she carried a plate. By closing time, exhaustion had settled deep into her bones. As she hung her apron in the staff room, she noticed a man seated alone at the bar, unusual since the restaurant had officially closed 15 minutes ago. He was unremarkable in appearance, average height, trim build, with dark hair that curled slightly at the nape of his neck. His clothes, a simple button-down shirt and dark jeans, were decent quality, but nothing flashy. He nursed a glass of whiskey, seemingly absorbed in whatever he was typing on his phone. "Excuse me," Olivia approached cautiously. "I'm sorry, but we're closed now." The man looked up, revealing sharp blue eyes that seemed to see right through her.
"Sorry about that.
"I got caught up in some work." He smiled apologetically, and something about the genuine warmth in his expression made Olivia relax slightly. "No problem. Just letting you know," he nodded, finishing his drink in one smooth swallow. "Rough night?" he asked, nodding toward a small cut on her hand she'd gotten from cleaning up the broken plate. "You could say that," Olivia admitted, too tired to maintain her professional facade. "I'm hanging on by a thread here." "We all have those days," he said with understanding. "I'm Nick, by the way." "Olivia," she replied, forgetting protocol about not sharing personal information with customers. "Well, Olivia," Sometimes the worst nights lead to the best mornings. He placed a generous tip on the counter and stood. Don't give up just yet. With that cryptic encouragement, he left, leaving Olivia puzzled by the strange encounter. The next morning, Olivia woke to a text from Richard. Mr. Harris is coming today. Everyone on their game. Panic seized her as she rushed through her morning routine. The commute to work was a blur of anxiety, her mind racing through every possible scenario of how she could mess up again. By the time she arrived at the Silver Spoon for the lunch shift, her nerves were frayed. The restaurant was immaculate, staff moving with practiced precision as they prepared for the lunch rush. Richard was micromanaging every detail, straightening tablecloths and inspecting wine glasses for water spots. Remember, he whispered harshly as he passed Olivia. One mistake. The lunch service began, and Olivia moved cautiously, triple-checking every order before delivering it. 2 hours in, the restaurant was at capacity, filled with business executives, socialites, and Boston's wealthy elite. Olivia had just delivered a perfect filet mignon to table 7 when she noticed him, the man from last night, Nick, seated alone in her section. He caught her eye and smiled, raising his water glass in subtle recognition. Olivia approached his table, confusion evident on her face. Back so soon? She asked, professional, but curious. The food here is exceptional, he replied simply. I thought I'd try lunch. As she took his order, a simple Caesar salad and the daily special. Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that there was something familiar about him beyond their brief interaction last night. The way he observed the restaurant, noting small details, seemed oddly purposeful. The shift continued smoothly until during a particularly busy moment, Olivia turned too quickly and collided with another server. The water pitcher in her hands tipped, sending its contents cascading over a customer's expensive-looking suit jacket. The man leapt up, cursing loudly as water dripped from his sleeve. Are you blind? He shouted, drawing attention from nearby tables. This is a $3,000 jacket. Richard materialized instantly, profuse apologies spilling from his lips as he dabbed at the jacket with a napkin. His eyes met Olivia's, and she could read the message clearly. You're done. I'm so sorry, Olivia began, mortified. Sorry doesn't dry my jacket or pay for the cleaning, the man snapped. I want her fired now. Richard cleared his throat. Sir, please accept our deepest apologies. Of course, your meal is on the house, and we'll cover any cleaning expenses. As for the staff member, he turned to Olivia, his expression grave. We'll handle this matter immediately. Olivia's world seemed to collapse around her. This was it. She was about to lose everything over a picture of water. Her vision blurred with unshed tears as Richard gestured for her to follow him to his office. Wait, a calm voice interrupted. Nick had risen from his table and approached the scene. Accidents happen, he said to the angry customer. The restaurant has offered to cover the cleaning. There's no need to demand someone lose their livelihood over this. The customer scoffed. And who are you to tell me how to react? A hush fell over the nearby tables as Nick smiled slightly. Just someone who values compassion over perfection. He turned to Olivia, his blue eyes kind. I believe I'm ready for my check. As Richard led Olivia away, she could feel her final chance slipping through her fingers like sand. Richard's office felt smaller than it had the day before, the walls closing in as Olivia stood before his desk, hands clasped tightly to keep them from shaking. You promised me, Richard began, his voice low with disappointment. One more chance, that's all I asked. I know, Olivia whispered. It was an accident. I just turned too quickly, and it doesn't matter how it happened. Richard cut her off. Results matter in this business. That was Wesley Palmer you drenched. He's a regular and friends with half the board members at First National Bank. He pinched the bridge of his nose. And with Mr. Harris in the restaurant today of all days, Olivia's stomach dropped. He's here now. Somewhere, Richard confirmed. He never announces exactly when he'll arrive. Could be eating right now or watching from some corner. That's his way. Observing when people don't know they're being watched. A knock at the door interrupted them. Richard called for the person to enter, and to Olivia's surprise, Nick stepped into the office. Excuse me, he said politely. I'd like a word about what just happened. Richard stood immediately, professional smile in place. Sir, I assure you we're handling the situation. We deeply apologize if your meal was disrupted by the incident. Nick waved away the apology. That's not why I'm here. I'd like to speak on Ms. Bennett's behalf. Both Olivia and Richard stared at him in confusion. How did he know her last name? I've been watching her work, Nick continued. She's attentive, personable, and clearly cares about doing well. That spill was genuinely an accident during a busy rush, not negligence. Richard shifted uncomfortably. While I appreciate your input, sir, staff matters are internal. Of course, Nick interrupted smoothly. But as someone who knows something about restaurants, I thought my perspective might be valuable. Something in his tone made Richard pause. You work in the industry? You could say that. Nick smiled enigmatically before turning to Olivia. Would you mind giving us a moment?
Stunned.
Olivia nodded and stepped outside, closing the door behind her. She leaned against the wall, heart racing. Who was this stranger advocating for her, and why? Through the door she could hear the muffled sounds of conversation, occasionally rising in volume before dropping again. After what felt like an eternity, the door opened and Richard beckoned her back inside. Miss Bennett, Richard began, his tone oddly formal. It seems you've made quite an impression on Mr. Wilson here. He suggested that rather than termination, we consider reassignment. Nick or Mr. Wilson apparently nodded. The Silver Spoon has a training program, doesn't it? For new staff, Richard confirmed hesitantly. Yes, though it's usually for new hires before they begin floor service. Perfect, Nick replied. I think Ms. Bennett would benefit from going through that program, even retroactively. A reset, if you will. Olivia stared between them. I don't understand. It means, Richard explained, looking like he'd swallowed something sour, that you're being given another chance. Mr. Wilson has made a compelling case for your potential. Relief flooded through Olivia, quickly followed by suspicion. She turned to Nick. Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me. Let's just say I see something worth investing in. Nick replied cryptically. Everyone deserves a second chance when they're truly trying. Before Olivia could press further, the office phone rang. Richard answered it, his expression shifting from annoyance to alarm. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. He hung up and turned to them both. I'm needed on the floor. Miss Bennett, you're to report to Thomas in the training room tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. For today, you're on break duty only. No customer interaction. He glanced at Nick with an unreadable expression. Thank you for your input, Mr. Wilson. After Richard departed, Olivia turned to Nick. I don't know how to thank you. You can thank me by making the most of this opportunity, he replied. The restaurant industry can be brutal, but it can also be rewarding for those who show genuine care for the experience they provide. That sounds like the voice of experience, Olivia observed. Nick shrugged. I've been around restaurants my whole life. Now I should let you get back to work. Break duty calls. He handed her a business card. If you need anything, give me a call. Olivia accepted the card. It was simple white cardstock with just a name and number. Nicholas Wilson. No title, no company name. The remainder of Olivia's shift passed in a blur of mundane tasks, refilling salt shakers, folding napkins, and restocking the service stations. Several of her colleagues shot her curious glances, clearly wondering how she'd escaped termination after the water incident. During her actual break, Olivia found a quiet corner of the staff room and called her roommate and best friend, Mia. I almost got fired today, she admitted when Mia answered. Oh no, what happened? Are you okay? Olivia recounted the water spill and the strange intervention by Nick. There's something about him, Mia. I can't put my finger on it. Maybe he's just a nice guy, Mia suggested. They do exist, you know. In Boston's financial district during lunch hour, Olivia scoffed. Besides, he knew my last name without me telling him, and Richard completely changed his tune after talking to him. It's weird. Well, whatever his deal is, at least you still have a job, Mia pointed out pragmatically. Did you Google him? Nicholas Wilson? Do you know how common that name is? There are probably thousands in Massachusetts alone. Fair point. Well, Keep me posted on your mysterious savior. I've got to run. Client meeting in 5. After hanging up, Olivia stared at the business card again. Curiosity getting the better of her, she pulled out her phone and searched Nicholas Wilson Boston restaurants. The results were unhelpful. Dozens of social media profiles, a few real estate agents, and a dentist. As she was about to put her phone away, a text came through from an unknown number. "How's break duty treating you, Nick?" Olivia stared at the message. She hadn't given him her number. A chill ran down her spine as she typed back, "How did you get my number?" The reply came quickly. "Richard provided it. Hope that's okay. Just checking that everything's working out." Relieved, but still suspicious, Olivia replied with a simple, "Thank you again for your help." When she returned to the floor, the restaurant had slowed to a gentle lull between lunch and dinner service. Olivia was wiping down menus when she overheard 2 servers whispering excitedly near the bar. "He's definitely here," one was saying. "Patricia said the kitchen got a special order that only comes in when he visits." "Did anyone actually see him?" asked the other. "That's not how it works. He comes in disguise. Could be anyone. That's why Richard's been sweating bullets all day." Olivia's mind immediately went to Nick. Could it be possible? No, it was too coincidental, too dramatic. James Harris was a billionaire who owned dozens of restaurants. He wouldn't personally intervene to save a clumsy server's job. As she finished her shift, Olivia found herself watching customers more carefully, wondering if the renowned owner might be among them. The idea that someone powerful was observing them all, invisible, and judging was unsettling. That evening, as Olivia prepared to leave, Richard called her into his office, once more. "Miss Bennett," he began, his tone softer than before. "I want to clarify something about your situation." "My training reassignment?" Olivia nodded. "Yes, it's unusual, to say the least. Typically, we would simply let someone go after multiple incidents." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Your advocate, Mr. Wilson, seems to have considerable influence. I'm not at liberty to explain more, but I suggest you take this opportunity very seriously." Olivia frowned. "Who is he, Richard? Really?" Richard shook his head. "It's not my place to say. Just know that your performance over the next few weeks will be noticed by more than just me." As Olivia left the restaurant that night, a sleek black car was parked across the street. Through the tinted windows, she could just make out a silhouette, someone watching the restaurant staff exit. When the figure raised her hand in what seemed like acknowledgement, Olivia quickened her pace, unsettled. The next morning, Olivia arrived at the Silver Spoon at precisely 8:45 a.m., determined to make the most of her mysterious second chance. The training room was a small space near the kitchen, lined with tables and charts detailing proper place settings and wine pairings. Thomas, the head trainer, was a thin man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses and a perpetual look of mild disapproval. "Miss Bennett," he greeted her curtly. "I understand we're doing a refresher course for you." "Yes," Olivia confirmed. "I appreciate the opportunity." Thomas raised an eyebrow. "Indeed, you must have friends in high places." Before Olivia could respond, the door opened and Nick walked in, dressed more formally today in a tailored suit that Olivia immediately noticed fit him perfectly, unlike the somewhat generic clothes he'd worn before. "Mr. Wilson." Thomas straightened immediately. "I wasn't told you'd be joining us." "Just observing," Nick replied casually, taking a seat in the corner. "Please carry on as if I'm not here." Olivia shot him a questioning look, but he simply smiled and gestured for the training to begin. As Thomas launched into a detailed explanation of the Silver Spoon service standards, Olivia found her attention divided between the lesson and the mysterious man who had somehow orchestrated this second chance. Who was Nicholas Wilson really? And what did he want from her? For the next week, Olivia's life fell into a new rhythm. Mornings were spent in training with Thomas, afternoons practicing service techniques, and evenings studying the extensive wine list and menu descriptions. Nick, or Mr. Wilson, as the staff had taken to calling him, appeared sporadically, sometimes observing her training, other times dining in the restaurant during her limited service hours. His constant presence was both reassuring and nerve-wracking. Whenever she made a small mistake, she'd catch his eye, expecting disappointment, but finding only patient encouragement. It was as if he'd personally invested in her success, though she still couldn't understand why. On Friday afternoon, Thomas announced her training complete. "You've made remarkable progress, Miss Bennet," he admitted grudgingly. "Your wine knowledge has improved substantially, and your service technique is adequate." From Thomas. This was high praise indeed. Olivia beamed.
Thank you.
"I've been practicing at home, too."
Yes.
Well, Thomas adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Wilson seems pleased with your development. You'll return to full-service duties starting tomorrow evening." As if summoned by his name, Nick appeared in the doorway. "How did our student perform, Thomas?" "Above expectations, sir," Thomas replied, "though there's always room for improvement." Nick nodded. "Excellent, Miss Bennet. Might I have a word?" Thomas excused himself, leaving Olivia alone with her mysterious benefactor. "Congratulations on completing your training," Nick said, leaning against a table. "The staff speaks highly of your progress." "Thanks to you," Olivia replied. "Though I still don't understand why you've taken such an interest in my career here." Nick studied her for a moment. "Let's just say I recognize potential when I see it. Are you free for dinner tonight?" "Not here.
Somewhere we can talk more casually."
Olivia hesitated. Part of her was still suspicious of his motives, but curiosity won out.
"I'd like that." "Great."
"There's a small Italian place called Vincenzo's a few blocks from here." 7 o'clock. After agreeing to meet him, Olivia hurried home to change, her mind racing with possibilities. Was this a date, a business meeting? Would she finally get answers about who Nicholas Wilson really was? She arrived at Vincenzo's at 6:55 p.m., wearing a simple blue dress that Mia had insisted brought out her eyes. The restaurant was cozy and authentic with red checkered tablecloths and bottles of wine repurposed as candle holders. Nick was already seated at a corner table, now dressed in casual slacks and a light sweater that made him look younger, more approachable. He stood when he saw her. "So, you look lovely," he said, pulling out her chair. "Thank you." Olivia settled across from him, noticing how different this felt from their interactions at the Silver Spoon. Here, without the hierarchies of the restaurant, they were just two people sharing a meal. After ordering, Nick seemed familiar with the menu and recommended the homemade ravioli. Olivia decided to be direct. "So, Mr. Wilson, are you finally going to tell me why you've taken such an interest in my career and perhaps who you really are?" Nick smiled. "Fair enough. First, please call me Nick. Mr. Wilson makes me feel ancient." He took a sip of his water. "As for your other questions, I'm exactly who I said I am. Nicholas Wilson, someone who knows the restaurant business and has enough influence to prevent Richard from firing me and to arrange special training," Olivia added skeptically. Nick conceded with a tilt of his head. "I advise restaurant owners on their operations. I have some sway at the Silver Spoon." "So, you're a consultant?" Olivia pressed. "Something like that," he replied cryptically. "But enough about me. Tell me about yourself. You mentioned you were a teacher before." Olivia considered pushing for more answers, but decided to play along. "English literature at Westfield Academy. I loved it, but budget cuts left the newest faculty members without positions." "And you ended up at the Silver Spoon." "Not my dream job," Olivia admitted. "But the pay is decent, and I thought it would be temporary until the next school year." "But now," Olivia shrugged. "Now, I'm not sure. There's something satisfying about creating a perfect dining experience for people. When everything goes right, it's almost like a performance." Nick nodded, looking pleased. "That's exactly the right mindset. The best restaurants understand they're in the business of creating memories, not just serving food." Their conversation flowed easily through dinner, touching on favorite books. They shared a love for classic American literature, travel destinations. Nick had been everywhere, it seemed, and Boston's restaurant scene, which Nick knew intimately. Olivia found herself relaxing, enjoying his company, and forgetting momentarily the mystery surrounding him. As they shared tiramisu for dessert, Nick's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "Everything okay?" Olivia asked. "Just work," he replied, typing a quick response. "Always something." He looked up with an apologetic smile. "Sorry about that." Where were we? You were about to tell me the real reason you saved my job, Olivia said boldly, the wine having loosened her tongue.
Nick laughed.
Persistent, aren't you? I told you. I saw potential in a server who kept breaking things and spilling water on customers. In someone who cared enough to beg for another chance, he corrected. That kind of determination is rare. Before Olivia could respond, an older man approached their table, his eyes widening in recognition. James, he said incredulously, staring at Nick. James Harris, is that you? Olivia froze, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth. She looked between the older man and Nick, whose expression had tightened almost imperceptibly. Martin, Nick, or James, greeted the man with a practiced smile. Good to see you. How's retirement treating you? Can't complain, Martin replied, still looking surprised. Never expected to see you in a place like this. Thought you'd be at one of your own establishments. Sometimes it's nice to be a customer, Nick replied smoothly. Martin, this is Olivia Bennett. Olivia Martin Chen. He used to supply produce to my first restaurants. Olivia managed a week. Nice to meet you, her mind reeling. James Harris, the billionaire owner of the Silver Spoon and a dozen other restaurants, was Nick. After a brief exchange about the restaurant industry, Martin excused himself. An uncomfortable silence descended on their table. You're James Harris, Olivia finally said, her voice hollow. You lied to me. I never lied, he countered. Nicholas is my middle name. Wilson is my mother's maiden name. I use it sometimes when I want to observe without the complications my actual name brings. So this whole time, saving my job, the training, this dinner, it was what? Some kind of undercover boss experiment? Hurt and embarrassment colored her voice. James sighed. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Olivia demanded, keeping her voice low despite her anger. Was I some kind of charity case? A diversion from your billionaire lifestyle? Olivia, please. No. She cut him off, throwing her napkin on the table and standing. I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not interested in being part of it. Thank you for dinner, Mr. Harris. She walked out, ignoring his call after her. Outside, the cool evening air did little to calm the burning humiliation she felt. James Harris, of course. The mysterious influence, the way Richard and Thomas had deferred to him, the convenient appearance just when the owner was rumored to be visiting. Her phone buzzed with a text. Please let me explain. It wasn't a game.
James.
Olivia silenced her phone and hailed a cab, fighting back tears of frustration. She'd actually started to like Nick, or James, or whatever his name was, had begun to trust him. And all along he'd been her boss, watching her struggle, probably laughing at her desperation. The next morning, Olivia woke to 3 missed calls and another text from James. I'll be at the restaurant today. Please give me a chance to explain before you make any decisions. She considered calling in sick, but knew it would only delay the inevitable. Besides, she needed this job, humiliating as it now felt to face him again. When she arrived at the Silver Spoon for the lunch shift, the atmosphere was charged with excitement. Staff members huddled in small groups, whispering animatedly. What's going on? Olivia asked Daniel, a fellow server who'd been friendly during her training. Mr. Harris is here officially this time, Daniel explained, straightening his tie nervously. He called an all-staff meeting before opening. Something big is happening. Olivia's stomach dropped. Was he going to fire her publicly for walking out on him last night? Or worse, announce their dinner to everyone, making her the subject of restaurant gossip for months? The staff gathered in the main dining room, where James stood by the bar, looking every inch the successful restaurateur in a perfectly tailored suit. His eyes found Olivia immediately, but she avoided his gaze, positioning herself behind taller colleagues. Good morning, everyone, James began, his voice carrying easily across the room. First, I want to thank you all for your hard work. The Silver Spoon continues to be one of Boston's premier dining destinations because of your dedication. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the staff. I've been observing operations here for the past week. As some of you may have guessed, he continued, what I've seen has impressed me in many ways, but also highlighted areas for improvement. Richard, standing near James, shifted uncomfortably. The restaurant industry is evolving, James said. And we need to evolve with it. That's why I'm announcing some changes today. He paused, scanning the room. Richard Maxwell will be transitioning to a new role as training director for all our East Coast locations. Richard's eyes widened in surprise. Clearly, this was news to him as well. His experience will be invaluable in standardizing our service across all properties, James continued smoothly. And taking his place as general manager of the Silver Spoon will be... Olivia held her breath, certain he would name Thomas, or one of the senior servers. Olivia Bennett, James finished. A collective gasp rose from the staff. Olivia felt the blood drain from her face as dozens of eyes turned to her. Ms. Bennett has demonstrated exceptional adaptability, determination, and a genuine commitment to creating memorable experiences for our guests, James explained, as if promoting a server with barely 3 months' experience to general manager was perfectly reasonable. Sometimes fresh perspectives are exactly what we need. The room erupted in confused whispers. Olivia stood frozen in place, unable to process what was happening. Was this his way of apologizing or some elaborate power play to embarrass her further? James raised his hand for silence. I understand this is unexpected. Miss Bennett will undergo intensive management training over the next month. With Richard's guidance, I have complete confidence in her potential. As the meeting dispersed, James approached her. My office. 10 minutes, he said quietly before being surrounded by staff members with questions about the restructuring. Olivia found herself climbing the stairs to the administrative level where she'd never been before. James's office occupied the corner with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. He was already there waiting. That was quite a show, Olivia said coldly as she entered. What are you playing at? James gestured for her to sit. It's not a game, Olivia. I meant what I said downstairs. You can't seriously expect me to believe you're promoting me to general manager because of fresh perspectives, she retorted. I spilled water on a customer yesterday, and then you completed intensive training in record time, he countered. You have natural leadership abilities, empathy for both customers and staff, and you care about doing things right. Olivia shook her head in disbelief. This is insane. The staff already thinks I'm sleeping with you. They'll get over it when they see your work ethic, James replied calmly. Look, I didn't plan for things to unfold this way. But I stand by my decision.
Why?
Olivia demanded. Why me? James's expression softened because when I watched you beg for your job, I saw myself 20 years ago desperate, determined, and genuinely passionate about creating something special. He leaned forward. The restaurant industry changed my life. Maybe it can change yours, too. Olivia stared at him, searching for signs of manipulation or ulterior motives, but found only sincerity. Could this really be happening? This is still crazy, she said finally. I know nothing about managing a restaurant. You'll learn, James assured her. The question is, are you willing to try? Olivia stared at James, the weight of his question hanging between them. Was she willing to try? The offer was simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. Why should I trust you? She asked finally. You lied about your identity from the moment we met. James nodded, accepting the criticism. Fair point. I use the Nicholas Wilson alias when I want honest observations about my restaurants. The moment people know I'm James Harris, behavior changes. He leaned back in his chair. But I never lied about seeing your potential. That was real from the start. Olivia considered his words. Despite her anger over his deception, she couldn't deny the opportunity before her. A management position at one of Boston's finest restaurants could change everything, financially, professionally, perhaps even personally. If, and it's a big if, I accept, I need complete honesty from now on, she stated firmly. No more games, no more secrets. Agreed, James replied without hesitation. And I need to know this isn't just some elaborate apology or worse, some kind of twisted interest in me, she added, looking him directly in the eyes. James met her gaze steadily. This is a business decision, Olivia, one I believe will benefit the Silver Spoon. Your personal connection with staff, your attention to detail, your quick learning curve. These are assets. As for any personal interest, he paused, choosing his words carefully. I respect you professionally. Anything beyond that would be inappropriate while I'm directly overseeing your training. His answer, diplomatic yet honest, reassured her. All right then, Olivia said, taking a deep breath.
I'll try.
The following month was the most demanding of Olivia's life. Each day began at 6 a.m. with management tutorials with Richard, who, despite his initial resentment, proved to be a thorough teacher. Afternoons were spent shadowing him through vendor negotiations, staff scheduling, and inventory management. Evenings, she observed service from a manager's perspective, learning to spot potential issues before they became problems. James visited weekly, monitoring her progress with an increasingly impressed expression. Their interactions remained strictly professional, though Olivia occasionally caught him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. The staff's initial skepticism gradually transformed as they witnessed Olivia's dedication. By the third week, even Thomas had begrudgingly admitted she had unexpected aptitude for the position. One evening, as Olivia reviewed the next day's reservations, she discovered a notation that made her heart skip. JH and guests table 12-7 odd. James was bringing company to dinner, and according to the notes, it was important. When she asked Richard about it, he looked unusually somber. Board members from the restaurant group, he explained. Quarterly dinner. They always evaluate the GM's performance. He squeezed her shoulder. Don't worry, you're ready. The next day, Olivia arrived early, personally inspecting every aspect of the restaurant. She briefed the staff thoroughly, emphasizing the importance of the evening, and stationed her strongest servers at and around table 12. At precisely 7 p.m., James arrived with 4 impeccably dressed men and women, all carrying the unmistakable air of wealth and influence. Olivia greeted them professionally, hiding her nerves behind a confident smile. Miss Bennett, James introduced her. Our new general manager. She's been implementing some exciting changes here at the Silver Spoon. The board members assessed her with polite interest, exchanging glances that Olivia couldn't interpret. As she escorted them to their table, she overheard one murmur to another. Another of James' reclamation projects. The comment stung, but Olivia maintained her composure. Was that how they saw her? How James saw her? A charity case to be reclaimed. Throughout dinner, she ensured everything was perfect, from the temperature of the wine to the timing between courses. The evening progressed smoothly until dessert, when disaster struck. A new server, nervous about the VIP table, tripped while delivering the board members' dessert selection. A chocolate sole landed directly in the lap of Diane Winters, the most senior board member, who let out a shocked gasp as the warm dessert spread across her designer dress. The restaurant fell silent. James stood immediately, napkin in hand, while the mortified server stammered apologies. Olivia rushed over, her mind racing. This was exactly the kind of incident that had nearly cost her own job weeks earlier. Miss Winters, I'm so deeply sorry, Olivia began, her voice calm despite her pounding heart. She turned to the server, a young man named Kevin, who looked close to tears. Kevin, please bring a club soda and clean towel immediately. As Kevin hurried away, Olivia addressed Ms. Winters directly. Your dress is beautiful, Valentino, isn't it? I know their boutique manager personally. If you'll allow me, I'll arrange for priority cleaning or replacement first thing tomorrow, entirely at our expense. Miss Winters, who had been ready to unleash her fury, paused at Olivia's knowledgeable response. Yes, it is Valentino from the spring collection. Exquisite choice, Olivia nodded. Olivia, now while Kevin brings the club soda, may I offer you a complimentary after-dinner drink? Perhaps the 25-year-old Macallan we reserve for special guests. By the time the board members departed 2 hours later, the Seoul incident had transformed from potential disaster to an example of exceptional recovery. Miss Winters had even laughed about it, accepting Olivia's business card with a promise to call about the dress. As the restaurant closed for the night, James found Olivia in her office, reviewing the evening service notes. That was impressive, he said, leaning against the doorframe. Diane Winters once had a chef fired for sending out an overcooked steak. Olivia looked up, exhaustion and relief evident in her expression.
Just doing my job. No.
James shook his head. You went beyond managing a crisis. You turned it into a relationship-building moment. That's exceptional leadership. I heard someone call me a reclamation project, Olivia said quietly. Is that how the board sees me? How you see me? James's expression darkened.
Who said that?
It doesn't matter, Olivia replied. I just want to know if it's true. James entered the office fully now, taking a seat across from her. When I started my first food truck, people called it a hobby project, something a trust fund kid was playing with until he got bored. Labels like that say more about the people using them than the people they're applied to. That's not really an answer, Olivia pointed out. James sighed. No, you're not a reclamation project. You're someone I recognize myself in. Someone with drive, intelligence, and genuine passion who just needed an opportunity. He paused. The board questioned my decision to promote you so quickly. Tonight, you showed them exactly why I did. His sincerity was palpable, and Olivia felt the last of her doubt melting away. Over the past month, she discovered an unexpected truth. She loved this job. The challenges, the creativity, the satisfaction of creating perfect experiences. It fulfilled her in ways teaching never had. Thank you, she said simply, for seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself. James smiled, and for a moment, Olivia glimpsed the man she'd first met at the bar, the unassuming Nick, who had offered kindness when she needed it most. 3 months later, the Silver Spoon was thriving under Olivia's management. She had implemented subtle but meaningful changes, a mentorship program for new servers inspired by her own experience, a revised training approach that emphasized recovery from mistakes rather than mere prevention, and weekly staff meals where everyone from dishwashers to senior servers shared feedback in a supportive environment. Revenue had increased by 12%, and staff turnover, previously a persistent problem, had dropped dramatically. Even Richard, now happily establishing standardized training across all of Harris's restaurants, admitted her innovations were revolutionary in their simplicity. One evening, as Olivia completed the nightly closing procedures, she found James waiting in the empty restaurant, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. Celebrating something? She asked, accepting a glass. Your quarterly results, he replied, raising his glass in toast.
The board is impressed.
They've approved your permanent appointment and a rather substantial bonus. Olivia smiled, the news confirming what she'd begun to feel, that she belonged here, that this unexpected detour in her career path might actually be her true destination. I have something else to discuss, James continued, his tone shifting to something more personal. My direct oversight of the Silver Spoon ends next week. The training period is complete. Oh, Olivia said, unsure why this news created a flutter of disappointment. So, you'll be moving on to your next project. Yes, he confirmed. A new concept in Chicago needs attention. But it also means, he hesitated, studying her expression, that our professional relationship is changing. You'll report to the regional director now, not directly to me. Understanding dawned on Olivia. I see. She took a sip of champagne to hide her sudden nervousness. And that's significant because James set down his glass, his blue eyes, the same ones that had first caught her attention months ago, meeting hers directly. Because I'd like to ask you to dinner, not as your boss, not as Nick Wilson, but as James Harris, just a man who's come to admire a remarkable woman. The invitation hung between them, laden with possibility. Olivia thought back to that night at Vincenzo's, how comfortable their conversation had been, how genuinely they'd connected before the revelation of his identity. I don't know, James, she replied honestly. There's still a power imbalance here. Even with the reporting structure changing, he nodded, accepting her concern. You're right, and I respect that completely. He reached for his jacket, preparing to leave. The offer stands whenever, if ever, you feel the timing is right. As he turned to go, Olivia made a decision. James, she called after him. He paused, looking back. I'm free next Saturday, but I choose the restaurant this time. His smile was warm, genuine, the smile of the man she'd glimpsed beneath the billionaire facade. I'd like that. 6 months later, Olivia stood on the deck of James's Cape Cod summer home, watching waves crash against the shore below. Behind her, through the windows, She could see their friends and colleagues from the Silver Spoon enjoying the housewarming party she'd organized. James joined her, wrapping a light jacket around her shoulders against the evening breeze. "Penny for your thoughts," he asked, standing beside her at the railing. Olivia smiled, leaning slightly against him. "I was just thinking about that night when I begged Richard not to fire me. If you hadn't been there, you'd have found another way," James finished confidently. "That's who you are." "Maybe," she conceded, "but I'm glad I didn't have to." Inside, someone called for a toast, and James took her hand. "Shall we?" As they rejoined the party, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From desperate waitress to successful restaurant manager, from skeptical employee to woman falling in love, all because someone had seen her potential when she was at her lowest. Richard raised his glass as they entered. To Olivia, he proclaimed, whose training program has now been adopted by every restaurant in the Harris Group, and to James, who had the wisdom to see what the rest of us missed. And to second chances, James added quietly, his eyes meeting Olivia's, for reminding us that sometimes the best is yet to come. As glasses clinked around them, Olivia squeezed his hand, silently thanking the twist of fate that had brought them together. She had lost a teaching job but found her true calling, and in the process discovered that sometimes rock bottom is just the foundation for something beautiful. 6 months later, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text as she finalized the evening's reservations. It was from James, who was in New York for business meetings. "Have news flying back tonight. Meet at Vincenzo's 8 p.m. Intrigued, Olivia replied with a simple, "See you there," before returning to her work. Under her management, the Silver Spoon had achieved its first Michelin star, an accomplishment that had made headlines in the culinary world and cemented her reputation as one of Boston's most innovative restaurant managers. That evening at Vincenzo's, now their place for all-important conversations, James was already waiting at their usual corner table. His expression was a mix of excitement and nervousness that immediately piqued Olivia's curiosity. "What's this big news?" she asked after they'd ordered. James reached for her hand across the table. "I've been offered an opportunity to expand internationally, starting with restaurants in London, Paris, and Tokyo." "James, that's amazing," Olivia exclaimed, genuinely thrilled for him. "Your first international ventures. It's what you've been working toward for years." "It is," he agreed, his thumb tracing patterns on her palm. "But it would mean a lot of travel, at least initially. 6 months abroad minimum." Olivia's smile faltered slightly. Their relationship had blossomed over the past year, becoming something neither had expected, but both now treasured deeply. 6 months apart would be challenging. "Well, make it work," she assured him, though uncertainty flickered in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you." James took a deep breath. "Actually, I had something else in mind." He reached into his pocket and placed a small velvet box on the table between them. "I thought perhaps you might consider coming with me as my wife." Olivia's breath caught as he opened the box, revealing a stunning emerald-cut diamond ring. "I know it's sudden," James continued, his usual confidence giving way to vulnerability. "But this past year has shown me what truly matters. Success means nothing without someone to share it with, someone who understands both the struggles and the triumphs, someone like you." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes as she looked from the ring to the man before her. No longer the intimidating billionaire or the mysterious stranger who had saved her job, but simply James, the man who had seen her true potential and helped her discover it for herself. "Yes," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "Yes, I'll marry you. And yes, I'll come with you." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Olivia marveled at life's unexpected turns. From "please don't kick me out" to "please be my wife," a journey she never could have imagined that fateful night when a plate shattered on the Silver Spoon's polished floor. Sometimes, she reflected as James kissed her, the most beautiful destinations are found on detours we never planned to take.